What you call it? Oh my god.
No, 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 Kodak, you lying. Oh my Kodak, bro.
Back up! Back up! Back up! Back up! Back up! Hey, listen! Go over here! Go over here! Go over here! Go over here!
The vehicles they thought they had shaken off hadn't vanished at all. They had simply circled back, waiting for the right moment. What happened next unfolded so quickly that witnesses later struggled to describe it in sequence. One of the cars pulled into the lot again, moving casually as if nothing were unusual. Then it left. For a split second, the tension dropped. Maybe it really had been nothing. Maybe they had overreacted. But that calm lasted only seconds. The same vehicle returned, and this time it didn't pause. Gunfire erupted, shattering the quiet of the early morning. The sound of shots rang across the lot, echoing against concrete and metal. Security reacted instantly, rushing to shield and move their client. In the chaos, one guard position near the entrance was struck in the leg, the bullet hitting the femoral artery, one of the most critical blood vessels in the human body. Injuries to that artery can become life-threatening within minutes due to rapid blood loss. He was rushed to a hospital in serious condition and underwent emergency surgery that ultimately saved his life. Meanwhile, Kodak was quickly moved into an armored vehicle and taken away from the scene, physically unharmed but undeniably shaken. Local authorities confirmed the shooting shortly afterward, stating that one person had been seriously injured outside the restaurant. The franchise operator released a statement clarifying that the incident had occurred outside rather than inside the establishment, emphasizing that customers and staff had remained safe. Investigators began piecing together what had happened, but one question overshadowed everything else. Was this random or intentional? The evidence suggested planning. Multiple vehicles. A coordinated tail. A retreat designed to lower suspicion. A return timed for maximum vulnerability. Those details don't typically align with spontaneous crime. They point toward preparation. At the time, he was also under strict legal supervision stemming from a prior conviction. Earlier that year, Donald Trump had commuted his federal sentence, granting him release under conditions that included traveling with armed security. Ironically, that requirement may have saved his life that night. Without trained protection present, the outcome could have been drastically different. As sirens filled the night air, one thing became clear. This wasn't just a scare. It was an incident layered with intention, timing, and unanswered questions.
Hunting's at 3 a.m.
No, not here.
So you can't do pancakes?
No, we're not
I'll tell you, come on here. Come on with his
The night outside the club should have ended like countless celebrity appearances do, flashing cameras, quick photos, and a smooth exit. Instead, it turned into another chapter in a pattern that seemed to follow him no matter where he went. Just before 3 a.m., while he stood near a red Ferrari greeting fans, tension sparked nearby. Witnesses later described raised voices, pushing, and the kind of chaotic energy that can erupt suddenly in crowded nightlife scenes. According to statements from his legal team, someone lunged at a member of his entourage without warning. Instinctively, he stepped in to defend his friend. That decision, meant to protect someone close to him, became the turning point. Within seconds, gunfire broke out. Reports indicated roughly 10 shots rang through the street, sending bystanders scrambling for cover. 4 people were struck. He was among them, hit in the leg. Fortunately, the injury wasn't fatal, and he was treated at a hospital before being released. But the symbolism of the moment stuck with observers. Another city, another confrontation, another burst of gunfire. Then came an incident in February 2023 that made headlines for a different reason. After a concert connected to Jap Boy in Sanford, a van carrying several women who had attended the show was ambushed in a drive-by shooting. Multiple vehicles reportedly surrounded the van before opening fire. One woman, 31-year-old Princess Talver, was killed, and 5 others were wounded. Authorities eventually arrested 13 individuals in connection with the attack. During a press briefing, Dennis Lemma stated that investigators traced the motive back to an ongoing feud tied to social media disputes and legal tensions involving artists in the same orbit. Importantly, officials clarified that Kodak himself was not charged and that there was no evidence he directly participated in the shooting. Still, his name surfaced repeatedly in coverage, illustrating how conflicts connected to public figures can ripple outward and affect people far removed from the original dispute. That's what made the incident especially haunting. The victim wasn't a celebrity, a rival, or someone involved in industry drama. She was simply a concertgoer. Her death underscored a sobering reality. Sometimes the fallout from public conflicts lands not on the people at the center, but on bystanders who never expected danger to enter their lives. For many observers, that tragedy reinforced a growing perception. Even when he wasn't physically present, turmoil seemed to orbit around his name. Whether coincidence or consequence, the pattern was difficult to ignore and even harder to explain. New footage of Kodak Black surfacing online has reignited a chilling question that refuses to fade, no matter how much time passes. What really happened that night? The clip itself is short, grainy, and filmed from a distance, but it doesn't need cinematic clarity to send a shiver down viewers' spines. Because behind those few seconds of video lies a story that sounds less like a rumor and more like the opening scene of a crime thriller. According to reports and eyewitness accounts, the incident unfolded around 3 a.m. in Tallahassee, a city usually quiet at that hour, especially near fast food parking lots where late-night customers are more focused on fries than fear. Yet that night was different. Something was already in motion long before anyone stepped out of a vehicle. Multiple cars were involved, not just one suspicious vehicle lurking in the shadows. Witnesses later described coordinated movement, the kind that suggests planning rather than coincidence. These weren't random drivers passing through. They were positioned, synchronized, and deliberate. It looked less like chance and more like surveillance. The idea that someone would organize vehicles, people, and timing just to intercept one individual raises disturbing implications. Coordinated setups like that don't usually happen spontaneously. They require preparation, communication, and intent. And that's what makes the situation feel so unsettling. This wasn't an argument that escalated or a confrontation that spiraled out of control. From all appearances, it looked like something designed in advance. As the story spread, people online began replaying the same question again and again, almost obsessively. Not who was there. Not what song he was working on. But why? Why would anyone go to that level of effort? Why would anyone assemble cars and wait in the early hours of the morning unless they had a very specific goal? The presence of planning suggests motive, and motive suggests history. The footage alone doesn't provide answers, but it does something arguably more powerful. It keeps the mystery alive. Each time someone reposts it, zooms in, or analyzes it frame by frame, the tension grows. It's the kind of clip that doesn't just show a moment, it hints at a larger story unfolding behind the scenes. And sometimes, what isn't visible in a video is far more unsettling than what is. Because if that night truly involved coordination, timing, and intent, then it wasn't random at all. It was deliberate. And that possibility is what keeps people watching the clip over and over, searching for clues hidden in plain sight.
They are investigating this shooting at right now. We are told this happened around 2:30 this morning. We don't know exactly how badly the victim was hurt. We've only confirmed that one person was shot here. They haven't said whether that person survived the shooting or not. We also don't know yet if there is any suspect in custody.
What the Tallahassee incident ultimately exposed wasn't just a single frightening episode. It revealed how thin the line can be between two radically different realities coexisting in one life. On one side stood platinum records, sold-out shows, and award nominations. On the other stood parking lot ambushes, gunfire, and unanswered questions. The distance between those worlds wasn't measured in miles. It was measured in moments. Think about the contrast. One day, he could be celebrated for helping hundreds of families pay rent. The next, he could be ducking bullets meant for him. One week, he might be praised for philanthropy. The next, his name could trend online because of violence connected to people around him. That kind of dual existence isn't just stressful, it's psychologically exhausting. Living with the awareness that danger might appear at any time changes how a person moves, thinks, and trusts. For fans watching from afar, it can feel surreal. They see the music videos, the interviews, the luxury cars, and the red carpet appearances. But incidents like these remind everyone that fame doesn't function as a shield. In some cases, it can even act like a magnet, drawing attention from people with motives that aren't always positive. The fact that no arrests were made in connection with certain attacks only deepened the unease. When there's no resolution, no suspect, and no official explanation, speculation tends to linger indefinitely. Questions remain open, theories circulate, and every new sighting or rumor reignites old fears. And that's why the footage that surfaced online struck such a nerve. It wasn't just about what viewers saw in those few seconds. It was about everything they knew had happened before. The clip became a symbol, not proof of anything specific, but a reminder of how often his life had brushed against danger. In that sense, the video didn't introduce a new mystery. It reopened an existing one. And for many people watching, the most unsettling part wasn't the grainy visuals. It was the realization that this wasn't an isolated chapter. It was another page in a story that had been unfolding for years.
got the lyric. It said, "I'd change my life tonight if Donald Trump reduced my sentence." He not only reduced your sentence, he pardoned you.
All that good.
Hard.
It's never been done before.
Yeah, how did that happen? Like, you in the cell and they just said,
He Gemini again. He was Gemini like me. His birthday 2 days after my. And I wear like he be vibing out here too.
right.
Trump is a Gemini?
I didn't know that. Hey.
Yeah, I'm a Gemini.
Are you Gemini when you're still?
28th. May
Oh,
28th.
Okay, my 6'11", my 6'11", Trump 6'14".
One of the most important details about that night is something many casual observers overlook. He wasn't supposed to be without protection at any time. Because of legal conditions tied to his release, armed security was mandatory whenever he traveled. That rule might have seemed restrictive on paper, but in reality it likely prevented tragedy. The trained professionals surrounding him recognized danger early, took evasive action, and reacted quickly when shots were fired. Without that layer of protection, the situation could have unfolded very differently. Despite the seriousness of the attack, authorities never publicly identified a suspect or confirmed a motive. That silence left a vacuum, and whenever there's a vacuum, speculation rushes in to fill it. Online discussions exploded with theories. Some suggested past rivalries. Others pointed to lingering street conflicts from earlier years. Still others believed it could be resentment from people who felt abandoned after he achieved success. He addressed the incident himself during a live stream, stating that it wasn't connected to rap feuds or industry disputes. According to him, the issue was rooted in street matters unrelated to music. Whether people believed that explanation or not, one thing was undeniable: coordinated attacks like that don't happen by accident. Someone had a reason, even if that reason never became public. What makes the situation even more unsettling is that it didn't stand alone. Less than a year later, another violent incident placed him in danger again, this time on the opposite side of the country. In February 2022, he attended an after-party following a performance by Justin Bieber at a well-known Los Angeles venue. The guest list included celebrities like Leonardo DiCaprio, Tobey Maguire, Kendall Jenner, Khloe Kardashian, Lil Baby, and Ghana, a gathering packed with high-profile names. Shortly before 3 a.m., a confrontation broke out nearby. According to his attorney, he stepped in to defend a friend during the altercation. That's when gunfire erupted again. Several people were struck, and he suffered a leg wound that, thankfully, was not life-threatening. Still, the pattern was impossible to ignore. Different city, different crowd, same danger. By that point, observers began asking whether these incidents were coincidences or signs of something deeper. Because when violent encounters follow someone across states, across settings, and across years, it raises a haunting possibility. Maybe the threat isn't tied to a single place or moment. Maybe it's tied to something that travels with them wherever they go.
New details about a shooting early this morning near the Nice Guy restaurant in West Hollywood. Rapper Kodak Black is recovering after he was shot in the leg. It happened around 2:45 this morning following an after-party held by Justin Bieber. Police say 3 others were also shot. Kodak Black tells TMZ somebody in his crew got jumped. That's when a gunman reportedly opened fire. Police have not announced an arrest or released a description of the suspect.
Looking back across the years, his legal history reads less like a straightforward record and more like a timeline of close calls with a system that seemed to intersect with his life repeatedly. Long before chart success, he had already encountered law enforcement multiple times. As a minor, he was placed in youth detention centers on 3 separate occasions within a single year. The charges ranged from auto theft to robbery, battery, and weapons possession, all before he had even released a full-length studio album. In 2019, those encounters escalated into a federal case that dramatically altered his trajectory. He was arrested for falsifying information on background check forms while attempting to purchase firearms. The conviction carried a sentence of nearly 4 years, and he was sent to high-security facilities, including USP Big Sandy. For an artist whose career was rapidly rising, incarceration meant an abrupt halt to momentum. Tours stopped. Releases slowed. Opportunities vanished overnight. When his sentence was commuted in early 2021, he stepped back into freedom under strict supervision. The conditions were tight, and authorities monitored his compliance closely. Later that same year, a failed test resulted in a court-ordered rehabilitation stay lasting 3 months. Additional run-ins with law enforcement followed over time, including traffic stops and arrests tied to possession allegations. In one instance, officers from the Florida Highway Patrol reportedly discovered pills and a large amount of cash during a stop. Yet, despite the repeated legal storms, his music output never completely stopped. Tracks continued to surface. Collaborations appeared. Fans kept streaming. The contrast was striking, courtroom appearances on one side, studio sessions on the other. After his release from federal custody in early 2024, something seemed to shift publicly. Instead of headlines dominated solely by legal trouble, stories began emerging about quiet acts of generosity in his hometown. Residents described seeing him distribute food during holidays, deliver air conditioning units to families struggling through Florida's intense heat, and help cover rent for hundreds of households. Many of those efforts were coordinated through the Zachariah McQueen Foundation, an outreach initiative linked to his philanthropic work. For people watching from the outside, the duality was striking. On one hand stood a figure frequently entangled with legal challenges. On the other stood someone quietly funding community support without press conferences or publicity tours. The contradiction didn't fit neatly into a single narrative, and maybe that's why public perception of him has always seemed divided.
So there was a public argument between two rappers on social media. Detectives believe a local gang wanted to prove themselves by shooting one of those rappers while they were performing here in Sanford. But ultimately, 6 innocent victims were shot. Now, this photo that's coming up on your screen, this is Princess Tulliver. She was shot and killed in that drive-by shooting. 5 others were hurt.
To understand why someone would go to such extreme lengths, you have to step back and understand the life story behind the name. The public knows the stage persona, the chart success, and the headlines, but long before any of that existed, there was a child growing up in conditions most people only read about. His birth name is Deucen Octave, and he entered the world on June 11, 1997, in Pompano Beach, a place where opportunity often feels scarce and survival instincts develop early. He was raised by his mother, Marceline, the daughter of Haitian immigrants who carried the weight of providing for her child alone after his father left. Their home was in Golden Acres, a public housing neighborhood once described decades earlier by a legal professional as a place resembling hell on earth. By the time Kodak was growing up there, not much had changed. Poverty wasn't an occasional visitor in that environment, it was a constant presence. Violence wasn't shocking. It was routine. But even in that environment, there were early signs that he was different. While many kids around him were focused on simply making it through the day, he developed a fascination with words. Dictionaries and thesauruses became unlikely companions. He studied vocabulary the way other children studied video games, memorizing phrases and experimenting with language. That curiosity eventually found an outlet in music. He began rapping while still in elementary school, often sneaking away after classes to record whenever he could find access to equipment. By age 12, he had joined his first rap group. By 16, he was releasing mixtapes that started generating attention beyond his immediate neighborhood. The local streets began to notice the intensity in his delivery and the raw honesty in his lyrics. Then came the breakthrough moment. In 2014, his track No Flocking started circulating online, gaining traction far beyond South Florida. The turning point arrived when Drake posted a video of himself dancing to the song. That single gesture introduced Kodak's name to a global audience overnight. Suddenly, the teenager from public housing wasn't just another aspiring artist. He was a rising name people across the industry were paying attention to. Moments like that don't just change careers. They change trajectories. Overnight, doors that once seemed permanently locked started opening. But success also brings visibility, and visibility can attract attention from places you never intended. And as his fame began to rise, so did the stakes surrounding his life. In July 2025, that quieter side of the story reached a symbolic milestone. During a city commission meeting, Rex Harden presented him with a key to the city, one of the highest civic honors a municipality can give. The recognition wasn't tied to album sales or streaming numbers. It was awarded for community impact, philanthropy, and consistent efforts to support local residents who needed help the most. For someone who had spent years in headlines for arrests and controversies, the ceremony represented a striking reversal of narrative. Officials highlighted his contributions, paying rent for struggling families, organizing holiday giveaways, and providing resources to neighborhoods often overlooked. According to those present, he initially hesitated to accept public recognition, saying he hadn't done those things for praise. He simply wanted to help. Moments like that complicate the public image of any celebrity. It's easy for audiences to categorize people into simple roles, hero or villain, success story or cautionary tale. But real lives rarely fit into neat categories. His journey, filled with legal battles, near-death encounters, and charitable outreach, reads more like a layered biography than a headline. Even industry recognition followed him despite turbulence. He earned nominations connected to the Grammy Awards, a sign that his artistry continued to resonate within professional circles. That combination, critical recognition, community praise, and lingering controversy, created a reputation that felt almost paradoxical. Observers began asking whether he was changing or whether the public was finally seeing sides of him that had always existed but rarely received attention. Because sometimes transformation isn't about becoming someone new. Sometimes it's about different parts of a person becoming visible at different times. Still, even during this period of apparent progress, one question lingered beneath the surface. Recognition can honor past actions, but it can erase past associations. And for someone whose life had repeatedly intersected with danger, many wondered whether peace was truly permanent or just temporary. The applause at ceremonies was real. The gratitude from families he helped was genuine. But so were the risks that had followed him before. That uncertainty created a strange tension, celebration on one side, caution on the other, as if his story were balanced between two very different possible futures. That viral cosign didn't just boost his popularity, it shifted his entire reality. Soon after the buzz spread, Atlantic Records reached out, offering the kind of opportunity most artists spend years chasing. Signing with a major label meant bigger budgets, wider distribution, and global exposure. It also meant that the kid from Golden Acres suddenly had something he'd never possessed before, something to lose. Fame can feel like armor from the outside, but in reality it often works like a spotlight. It highlights success, but it also highlights vulnerability. Before recognition, he was just another young man navigating his neighborhood. After recognition, he became someone whose movements, appearances, and business deals were watched closely. That kind of visibility can transform admiration into envy and curiosity into hostility. On April 4, 2021, that reality seemed to catch up with him in a way no artist ever wants to experience. He had traveled to perform at a festival event, delivering a show that, by most accounts, went exactly as planned. Thousands attended. The performance ended without incident. Afterward, he headed to another appearance, a hosting engagement at a nearby club. It was a long night filled with energy, noise, and celebration, the kind of night performers often consider routine. By the time the event wrapped, it was nearly 3 a.m. Most people would have gone straight back to their hotel rooms to rest. But hunger doesn't care about schedules or safety concerns. So the decision was made to make a quick stop at a fast food restaurant. It sounded simple, almost trivial. Just a quick food run before calling it a night. On the surface, nothing seemed unusual. But according to reports, something felt off as they drove. Multiple vehicles appeared behind them, following in a way that didn't look accidental. At first it could have been dismissed as coincidence. After all, cars share roads all the time. But this felt different. The vehicles weren't just nearby, they were maneuvering aggressively, attempting to close distance. Security noticed immediately. Routes were changed. Turns were taken that weren't originally planned. For a brief moment, it seemed the trailing cars had disappeared. The tension eased just enough for the convoy to pull into the restaurant parking lot. One vehicle positioned itself strategically near the entrance, acting as a barrier. It was a precaution, the kind train teams take automatically. He stepped out to grab the order himself, despite suggestions from security that they handle it. That small decision, ordinary, harmless, almost forgettable, would soon feel anything but ordinary. The resurfaced footage involving Kodak Black didn't just spark curiosity, it reopened a chilling timeline that has followed him for years, one defined by success colliding with danger in ways few artists ever experience. What people saw online wasn't simply a clip. It was a reminder of a pattern stretching back to a tense early morning incident outside a fast food spot in Tallahassee, where a routine late-night stop nearly turned fatal. According to reports, multiple vehicles tailed his convoy through the city streets, moving in coordinated fashion before gunfire suddenly erupted. One of his security guards was struck in the leg, seriously injured, while he was rushed away unharmed. Investigators never publicly confirmed a motive, and no definitive suspects were announced, leaving the entire event suspended in unanswered questions. To understand why that moment felt so ominous, you have to look at the broader arc of his life. Born Deuce Octave in South Florida to Haitian immigrant parents, he grew up in public housing surrounded by poverty, crime, and constant instability. Music became his escape early. While other kids focused on survival, he obsessed over words, reading dictionaries and experimenting with rhyme schemes. By his teens, his raw, street-level sound had already begun turning heads locally, and viral attention eventually pushed him into the national spotlight. Fame arrived fast, but it didn't erase the environment that shaped him. If anything, success amplified the risks, placing him in a position where attention came from fans and enemies alike. The Tallahassee shooting wasn't the only time violence brushed close. In February 2022, after attending an event tied to Justin Bieber in Los Angeles, he was standing outside posing for photos when a fight broke out nearby. Seconds later, gunshots rang out, striking 4 people and wounding him in the leg. He survived, but the incident reinforced a perception that danger seemed to appear wherever he went. Then, in 2023, authorities linked a deadly drive-by shooting following a concert connected to Jackboy to an ongoing feud. He wasn't charged and investigators found no proof he was directly involved, yet his name still circulated in headlines, illustrating how proximity alone can pull someone into the center of violent narratives. Legal trouble has also been a recurring theme. Before adulthood, he had already faced multiple arrests. In 2019, a federal weapons case led to a prison sentence that could have stalled his career entirely. His sentence was later commuted by Donald Trump, granting him early release, but under strict supervision. Since then, additional legal run-ins and probation conditions have kept him under scrutiny. Yet, alongside those headlines exists another side of his story that rarely gets equal attention: his philanthropy. Over the years, he has reportedly paid rent for hundreds of families, distributed holiday meals, provided air conditioning units to residents in extreme heat, and funded community aid through his foundation. In 2025, his hometown even honored him with a ceremonial key to the city, recognizing his local impact. That contrast is what makes his narrative so compelling and so complicated. On one hand, he embodies the classic rise-from-nothing success story, a kid from hardship who turned talent into global recognition. On the other, his journey has been shadowed by courtrooms, controversies, and moments of real danger. These two realities don't cancel each other out, they coexist, shaping how the public interprets every new headline about him. The resurfaced footage reignited debate precisely because it sits at the intersection of those worlds. Fans see resilience, someone who survived circumstances that might have ended another life. Critics see a pattern of chaos that never fully disappears. Both perspectives stem from the same timeline, just viewed through different lenses. Ultimately, his story isn't just about fame or controversy. It's about the fragile distance between triumph and tragedy. One night, he might be celebrated for helping struggling families. Another night, he might be sprinting for cover as shots ring out nearby. That razor-thin line is what keeps people watching, analyzing, and questioning. Because the real mystery isn't only what happened in any single incident. The deeper mystery is whether a life shaped by survival can ever truly escape the shadows it came from, or whether those shadows always find a way to follow.